Hi Green Styler, it's Angie.
And Savannah.
And today we're going to make the Boga Bay swimsuit.
Alright, so we are making the top first, and you want to have all of your pieces cut out for the top. And your straps. Alright, so first you want to sew 2 parallel basting stitches, one really close to the edge and the other one close to the first stitch. And you want to do that for both sides and for the main piece as well as on the lining piece. Alright, so now you want to gather these sides enough so that the side seams of that match up with the side seams of the back piece.
After you've gathered enough so that the side seams match, place the back on the front main and pin them together. And you're going to stitch down the side seams for both sides on both the main and the lining. So you'll do the main and you'll do the same thing for the 2 lining pieces. So when you're sewing the side seams together, I like to sew it where the gathered part is on top. That way you can kind of monitor and watch it go through, and you can adjust it kind of on the fly if you need to make sure that those gathers are nice and even. So I basted it on the sewing machine first, and then I'm going to take it over to my serger and finish it and stitch over it again with the serger. On the straps, you sew down one side, you fold it with right sides together, sew down one side, and then if you have a serger, sometimes you can feed the elastic through the serger at the same time. Mine does not do that, so I go back and I place my elastic on that seam allowance and I install it with a zigzag stitch.
Alright, so now I just turned the strap right side out with this little tool we have here. That is a lifesaver. And so now I'm going to do this other one.
All right, so we're gonna now baste the straps to the back first. So I'm gonna take my piece and lay it out and make sure I've marked approximately where the back straps go. And we're going to take the back, line it up, and we're going to baste the straps to the back at our marks. The reason we're putting the back straps on first and then the front strap will attach later, that way you can, when you try it on, you can adjust it easier. Doing that yourself if you adjust from the front and not the back.
Alright, so now the main fabric pieces are turned wrong sides out, And you're going to take your lining and turn that right sides out. And you're going to slip the lining into the main. And
There's some pins.
oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay, and then you're going to want to start pinning all along the sides. But when you get to right here, these corners on the front, you want to leave a space open from 3/8 of an inch from this corner. So from about here to here, so that we can put the straps inside of there later. So just continue pinning all around, the back to the back, and the sides to the sides, and the front to the front. All right, so I'm starting from one corner so that I can leave it open right here. And I'm just sewing along. These edges and making sure that these two seams right here, the lining and the main, are lined up. And the power just went out. So then I just went up to the armhole, not armhole, but the
Arm side.
and then I'm going to start back up again at about right here to leave this as a hole.
Okay, so now we're gonna sew elastic to the seam allowances on the lining side. You can use swim elastic, like the rubber swim elastic I really like, or cotton swim elastic, or in this particular case, I'm using clear elastic. So again, we're just gonna sew it to the seam allowance with a zigzag stitch or a stretch stitch. You do not need to stretch this. You might put just a little bit of finger tension on it, especially across the back. I wouldn't say stretching it, but I would say just a little bit of tension. I don't know if you guys can hear that thunder. We just got hit with a big storm.
National Weather Service. Flash flood warning and advisory.
That's funny that we have both. Flash flood and heat.
And heat advisory.
Great. And then straight across the top. Don't forget, pull just ever so slightly with just a little bit of finger tension. Now that you've done the elastic, you're going to turn it with right sides out. And place the side seams together. Here's where you're going to try it on and test the length of the straps. But be careful because you're not going to have the bottom band to kind of help hold it down. So it may seem that you need additional length in the straps, but you may not. So just be careful when you do that, keeping in mind that when you have that bottom band, it'll help hold it down. So you may need it a little bit shorter than you initially think when you try it on. So try it on. Decide if you need to shorten the straps. If you do not, then you can, or when you try it on, I put these in the little holes that we left and pin it into place approximately where you think you'll need it. Or what you can do is pin, after you've tried it on, place a pin in on the strap about where you feel like it needs to be there. That way you know where it is, so when we flip it around the other way and reach in the side to sew it, you'll know where that needs to go. So I'm just going to put a pin there and there. And after you know where you need it, just reach through . Push the strap up against the outer edge where the arm side is, and then baste across. Make sure they're even, unless one side needs to be longer than other. Baste across, and then we'll trim off the excess strap. If you want, you can go back with that swim elastic and sew it in that open space. Check to make sure you have a clean line from the arm side up to your straps. To achieve that, make sure that you had pushed the straps right up against that seam, right there. Next thing to do after you've done the straps, and try it back on again one more time just to make sure you're good. And then we're gonna baste around the bottom edge. Oops. You can do a wide zigzag or long zigzag if you want for the basting. And then we'll prepare the underbust band, get that installed, and then we're almost done. Make sure you can see the lining when you're basting.
Alright, so now you're going to take the piece for the bottom band, the underbust, and you want to make sure that your right sides are together, and then you're just going to stitch down along here. Bulky.
Yes, so I like to do this stitch on the sewing machine with a straight stitch. And the reason is I can open that up when I fold it, and it's less bulky when you fold it. So that way when you open this and you fold it in half, you can open that seam and it just makes it a little smoother. Okay, so after you've cut your elastic to length, you're gonna overlap that elastic and stitch a X on the elastic just to secure it so it doesn't come undone. I like to always do an X. And then we're gonna put the elastic inside the band. And I usually like to leave that X at the back in case the elastic. Put in some pins to secure it. Feed it through. Am I getting it? Just a few pins here and there. While I'm doing this, I'm also going to mark center front and center back. So the center back is going to be where our seam is. And then the center front will be halfway, which was about right there. So I'm going to put a vertical pin where I have the center front. After we've done that, you can go through and baste that if you'd like. Sometimes I just cheat because I'm kind of in a hurry. And I just put a few basting stitches in a few like strategic locations, maybe 3 or 4 around. If you do a basting stitch and you do a straight stitch, you'll need to remove it later so it can stretch, because this band will have to stretch. Or you can do a narrow zigzag. But if you do it this way, you don't need to remove the basting stitches because you've only got straight stitching in a couple of little spots, just like that. That's just a shortcut. All right, so once you've got that, then you'll take the main piece again, and I like to go through, you can put the seam of the band along one of the side seams or at the center back. Personally, I kind of like the look of it right along the side seam. So that's what I'm gonna do this time. I think majority of people like to put it at the center back. It's really personal preference. But that other location, where I have the vertical, but I took it back out. I had the vertical pin there. That's gonna be at our other side seam. So after you've got this pinned into place, you're gonna take it over to your serger or your sewing machine. You're going to start the stitch, and then you're going to stretch it enough as you move around to take up the slack and make it fit. After you've finished installing the band on the bottom, turn it right sides out and try it on. And now we're gonna start on the bottoms.